Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. We know it's been a long week here at KubeCon, so it's 11 o'clock on the last day of the conference. Thank you very much for being here. We'll do our best to be interesting until the end. So the journey of deploying Backstage in a large organization. Just before we get started, raise your hand if you have Backstage running in production right now. Okay, good. And keep it up if you are working in a large organizations, let's say 1,000 employees or more. All right, good. So I hope you guys will be able to relate to what we're about to say, and for the rest of you, let's hope we'll help you get there. So before we start, who we are, my name is Mathieu Girard. I've been a developer and a software architect for a long time, and I'm software engineering manager at Beneva for a couple of years now.
And hi everyone, my name is Poingt. I'm a software architect, and I'm in charge of all the developer tools in Beneva's IT platform.
Thank you, Teddy. And what is Beneva? I'm guessing probably most of you never heard of Beneva before. We are actually based in Canada, largest mutual insurance company out in Canada, and also one of the largest in the overall Canadian insurance market. Over $27 billion in assets, more than 3.5 million customers or clients, and to this day probably more than 6,000 employees. So fairly large company, I'd say. 80 years in the making. We're a young company with a lot of history. This liner actually comes from our corporate website, and it has a lot more to do with what we're about to talk than you could imagine, because Beneva, you need to know that it's a merger, that we've been born in 2020. Before that, we were two older companies in Canada called SSQ and Le Capital. And as you could imagine, when you merge two large companies like that, from an IT point of view, you actually get a lot of, well, double of everything at first, right? Many languages, many applications, many teams working on stuff and trying to integrate into this new company. And of course, at this point, we were also, well, dealing with this other world event you might have heard about called COVID, you know, everybody working from home and out. So I guess we could say that at first there was a lot of chaos going on. We were trying to help our development teams work better, do the stuff the same way all together. And I just put right here a very small subset of all the technologies that we had going on at this point. Lots of them are still around, many are gone now, and many more than that are actually now new in our ecosystem. So we had many stuff going on, and we wanted to work better. So I think we knew where we were starting from. At this point, we knew that we were doing things more in a handcrafting way of developing stuff. So many teams, like I said, no real governance or all over the place. Lots of effort from different teams on the same stuff. I mean, doing tool selections, learning new things, experimentation, and all of this is, of course, not a lot of value creations for the company. So we started to add this vision where we wanted to industrialize the development. And we actually started a program at this point called Software Development Industrialization. And this program actually still exists to this day. And we do many things throughout the years with that. But one of the most important things that we wanted to achieve is to make our developer more efficient, make them work together easier, have a clear tech direction on what tool, what languages, where to deploy their stuff and all that. Automate the more that we could, of course, and optimize performance and quality and stuff like that. So we had this vision, we wanted to go there, we knew where we were coming from. And we started talking more and more about developer experience, of DevX. And at this point, we didn't know that, but as you know, DevX is actually a thing these days, right? I mean, right here at KubeCon this week, there were a couple of talks about DevX. And I guess it's always a good thing when you come up with something by yourself and you found out later that the whole industry talking about it, right? So one of our senior architects at this point came out with this formula here. And I mean, he probably took it somewhere else. I'd need to give credit to someone, I don't know. But anyway, he stated that efficiency is actually a formula of productivity and happiness. And the first one is pretty obvious, right? You need productive people. You need to hire the right developer who know what they're doing, know their stuff, what's good at developing, at programming. But the second one is I think most of the time overlooked. You need those developers to be happy, to like what they're doing, right? Because developers are most of the time pretty easygoing people, right? They want to develop stuff that matters. They want to deliver value to the clients of the company they're working for. So they want to have fun. They just want to do their job and be efficient at it. But at this point, we had a lot more of confused developers who were, like I said earlier, all day long asking the same kind of questions. Where do I deploy my stuff? How do I test this? What language do I use? What are going to be the finops and packs of my new feature? And all those questions, the boilerplate questions, boring stuff that they don't really like to do. So we knew that we needed something that would make them happier. And this is where Backstage came along. This is where we started to think about having this developer portal that would help them have all those questions solved beforehand for them. And Teddy right here was actually one of the first ones to talk about Backstage at this time. And at this point, we knew that this is what we needed. So how did we get the green light? Because of course, when you work in a large organization or any organization at all, actually, you need to convince people that your new idea, this thing that you want to achieve, is the right place to spend money and time, right? So we started advocating for this idea and trying to sell this vision that we have. And we did a lot of communication, a lot of meetings with leadership, trying to explain to them. And one of the main things, actually, and probably for any project, is to know how to adapt your message to the right audience. Because when you're talking to developers, you can go deep into technical stuff and explain to them how it's going to help access this log or start this automation that they want, or any technical details. But when you're talking to leadership, you need to adapt this message to speak to them in terms that they understand. What's in it for them? They want to know what's the return on their investments. They're going to spend time and money on your project. They want to know how it's going to help the company. So, of course, we talked a lot about the problem with the developer experience, this DevX state that we had, all this cognitive load problem that our developer had, that they had all day long. They were asking the same problems, having to address so many stuff all the time. And we explained to them that our vision for that was that to have how we describe Backstage as a single pane of glass for all things developers. So a place where developer can go, instead of having, Teddy will show you later, so many times tabs open in their browser, trying to access so many tools, trying to find the answers to their problem. It would be a single place where they could have all the answers. And of course, money talks. I mean, when you want to sell something, it always comes down to money, right? But it's kind of hard to put a number of happiness itself. I mean, it's good to have people smiling, but it doesn't give a lot of money to the company back just with that. So you need more than that. And one small trick that we use at this point was to use the power of a large enterprise. Because when you have many, many developers working, you have many occurrences of a lot of things. And use small numbers with those many occurrences. Let's say 5 minutes a day. 5 minutes a day is not a big number. I mean, I've been talking for probably more than 5 minutes just here today. But it's easy to understand. Everybody knows what 5 minutes a day means, and it's easy to achieve. I mean, if you have something that is any good at all, you're going to save 5 minutes a day for your developers. They're going to find stuff easier. They don't have to look into all of those wiki, all of those stuff that they have. They're going to be quicker to access what they need. So it's easy to understand, it's easy to achieve, it's easy to demonstrate. But you multiply this number by say, 500 developers for this example right here. It was actually a little bit more than that for us. But if you just add up those numbers, you come up with almost 5 full-time annual salaries. And now you're beginning to raise some eyebrows, because now it's beginning to mean something for the leadership, because this is something that they can actually foresee and know that's going to be good, right? So this is the kind of trick that we use to help sell this vision that we have. So let's now move to Teddy, who will talk a little more about that we had this green light. How did we actually deploy this thing and make it work in production?
Yes, thank you, Mathieu. So now we've got the green light, so it's time to do some stuff. So let's go from POC to production. But we need to start to gather a team first. And if you look at the Backstage documentation, the first line of the doc says that Backstage is an open source framework for building developer portals. So it's not a ready-to-use portal that you can integrate with your IT ecosystem. It's something you have to build. And for that, you don't need an integration team. You need a DevOps team. You need people with some TypeScript, React skills, and also some Kubernetes, because we're deploying that in Kubernetes. So you need to find the good people. And in our case, for the beginning, and still today, it's 3 to 4 people for the team. And then, since Backstage is only a framework, we need to give a name to our portal. It's really important to give a name to that our portal have an identity. So for that, we did a poll with all our developers in order to find a good name and a good logo. And it's a good way to introduce the concept to the developers too. So we ended with this nice logo. And our portal is named DevConnect with the E at the end because it's in French, you know. Next, we need to focus on our goals. So we have 2 main goals. The first one is give better access to information and tools to our developers. And the second one is to accelerate best practices adoption. So let's focus on the first one. So better access to information and tools. If you look at a developer computer, you will see his ID, hopefully, and a browser with all of these tabs open. So from Git repository, CI integration, documentation, monitoring, Jira backlog, Slack, security tools, and so on. So lots of context switching for developers. So we want to go from this many tabs to only one tab, the catalog. So for that, we need to leverage the software catalog feature of Backstage. So let's go back to the Backstage documentation and look at the plugin page. And you can see that there is a lot of plugin available, more than 200. So where to begin? Let's look at some architecture next. So what we want to achieve, we want to make the portal a central hub for all our tools. So from the identity provider to the Git, to the documentation and operational visibility on the right. So where to begin? We need to begin with the basics, obviously. So we need to integrate an identity provider because we're a large organization. We want authentication and authorization. We want to know who do what. So that's the first thing to do. And next, we integrate with our Git repository because it will be our source of truth. So it's really important. And last but not least, we integrate the documentation to bring back documentation in the portal. Okay, so now the catalog, what's in the software catalog of Backstage? Let's look back to Backstage documentation. The system model in Backstage is this diagram that I show you. It's pretty simple. It's like 9 entities. And we need to focus on what we want to bring in the catalog first. So we decided to go with the 4th component on the left. So I will explain to you quickly what they are. They are not in the good order, by the way. So the first one is the component. So the component, at Beneva at least, is entities which represent a Git repository. It can be a microservice. It can be infrastructure as code. It's a repository. And then we have the system entity, which is like your application. It's basically a composition of 1 or more components. So it will help you to find your what you search. And then there is the domain entity, which is like a group of system. You can group for whatever you want. You can do by enterprise capacity. You can do by what's meaningful for you. And last, we integrate the API entity, which is a good way to expose your system API in the portal, in the catalog. And to create all those entities, what you have to do is you have to create some YAML, because everybody loves YAML, yeah? And they are in your Git repositories, so you have basically some manifests to describe those entities. So no, our catalog is ready. We know what we want to do. We did our integration, but there is no content. How do we add some content? So I like to say that the developer portal is like a social network for your product team. So it's their job to add some content and to make it useful. So for that, we need to explain to the product teams what's in it for them. So basically, it will give them better visibility on application, quick access to documentation, quick access to tools. It will be easier also for onboarding for new developer, and it can bring better communication with other teams. And since we are a large company, we need to set goals. It's always good stuff to do. So in our case, we decided that 90% of our repository should be in the portal. But it's still not enough because, you know, our product team are already busy bringing some business value to the company. So they need some help. So for that we had some tooling. So what we did is we create some automation to auto-generate pull requests for catalog portal onboarding. So it can draft the pull request, and the product team only need to adjust the content prior to be merged. And we had some goodies because all the developers love some nice stuff. So what we did is added the end-of-life plugin to track technology deprecation. It's a really nice plugin in Backstage. And we also had the language plugin to quickly identify technology so team can know who uses this technology the same as they do. And that's it for the first goal. So let's focus on the second one. The second one is accelerate best practice adoption. So what we want to achieve here is that when we start a new microservice, a new component, basically, we want all the best practice in place at the beginning, even though the product team don't know exactly what to do and where to begin. So for that, we can leverage the scaffolder feature of Backstage, which is a feature can generate some pull requests based on templates. And it's pretty useful. So where to begin? What scaffolder we need to do first, once again? So what we did is identify our common use cases. In our case, it was a Java project in Kubernetes, it was a Terraform project, a Node project in Kubernetes, and serverless project. And for each of these scaffolders, what we did is initialize the repository. So every repository has the same structure, every repository uses the same GitHub workflow, at the same gating. So it will be easier to govern all these projects. And then we can leverage our everything as code. It's something we did with the industrialization, like Mathieu talked about earlier. We try to configure all our SaaS solution with some as-code. Most of the time is Terraform. So since all our SaaS solution is configured via Terraform, we can generate some scaffolders in order to simplify the configuration for the product teams. For example, we have Terraform for GitHub, Dynatrace, Fastly, so lots of providers. And then we need to communicate and monitor to see the adoption. So we want to be sure every developer knows the portal and its goals. So for that, we did some short videos, like 2-3 minutes max. They're available on the main page of the portal, and they explain what's the software catalog, what are the scaffolders, what's in it for them. And we did lots of demos. We tried to reach all our developers in order to be sure that they understand and they know the portal and why it's useful for them. After that, we decide to monitor traffic to see portal adoption because we need to have number to justify that we have ROI return. Yeah. So for that, we use the Insight plugin, which is a plugin provided by Spotify. It's like analytics for your portal. It's really nice. You can see the active unique users, the plugin usage, and so on. And then you just have to repeat the same recipe. So add more plugin, add more integration, add more templates. And since your DevX team is only 3 people, they can do everything. So you can leverage inner source in your company. If you have some other team in your platform, they can create some scaffolders in order to add some self-service to the platform. And to make the life of the product teams easier, you can add some tooling. What we did is we added an entity validator GitHub action in order to validate that the manifests are correct prior to being merged in the main branch. We also had error reporting integration in order to give some feedback to product team when error of configuration occurs. and we had some conformity tools to be sure that all the portal is used with all the best configurations. So, where we are today. Let's look back at the architecture. This time is the architecture of DevConnect portal. So you can see that we have integration with our identity providers because there is GitHub and Azure AD. We decided to integrate both IDP because we want to give access to the portal to people who are not developer for executive and they don't have identity in GitHub. And then we have integration with our GitHub repository for all our source of truth. We have integration with our CI orchestrators. We have Jenkins and GitHub Actions. And then we also give some visibility on the artifact built by product teams with integration with ECR and Nexus. We also give feedback in the portal of the backlog with Jira integration and Confluence for the documentation. We also have some quality integration with SonarQube and Soundcheck. Soundcheck is also a plugin provided by Spotify, which can allow you to check some configurations. And last but not least, we had some operational visibility. This one was harder to add because it's more critical data, more critical integration, more sensible data, I could say. So, but it's really useful because when your product team want to know what's happening in their application in production, they don't have to go to these tools or that tools. They just go to the portal, they go to their system, and they can see the Dynatrace in our case, and then if they want to go deeper, they can click on the link and then go back to the specialized application. We also had integration to OpsGenie, which is our alerting solution. It's good to know who is on call when something bad happened. It happened. And last, some operational visibility all our resources in AWS, in Kubernetes. We have also a Flux CD integration to show what's deployed on our Kubernetes namespace. And lastly, we had some finops integration. So the product team can see quickly the money spent for their system. So it's pretty nice. And in terms of statistics, so we have more than 300 systems, more than 3,000 components, 22 community plugins, more than 69 templates, which is 200 plus execution per month, 300 plus unique user per month, and it's growing each month, so that's good, and more than 1,000 search per month. And just to give you a quick look at our portal, sorry, everything is encrypted in French. So this is the main page with all our useful link. And then you can see the main page of a component. So you can see there is a quick description. You can see the relations. If you go down, you can see all the code, the integration. So we can see the SonarQube integration with the code quality, the language, the end-of-life informations, and the conformity with the Soundcheck. This is a deep dive in the conformity because we have some tabs in the portal, and the conformity basically can check if everything is correctly configured for the component, if everything is correctly configured for the GitHub repository, and you can add more configuration if you want. And at the bottom, you can see the Flux integration, which show what is deployed where, and if it's green or red. And lastly, some finops visibility, so you can see how many money your system costs to your company. So to finish, some takeaways.
Yes, some takeaway to close this. So the first one is not coming on my screen, but it's not a problem. It's actually to focus on the return of investment for your leadership. Like I talked in the start, you need to explain to them what's in it for them so they can understand. So don't forget to adapt your message. And let's just see. All right, here we go.
Okay. The second one is to focus on dev pain points. So we have to remember that our goals is to accelerate the developer productivity and to make them more happier. So we need to focus on dev pain points. We don't know what are the dev pain points until we talk to them. So we need to talk to them. It's really important.
Yeah. Another one, lots of value in those, all this visibility that Teddy showed you earlier, this finops stuff, the end-of-life plugin, the way to see how your deployment's going. There's lots of value there, so sell this value to the right people, show this to your developers so they can use it and get credits for it.
Yeah, and you need to treat your IDP like any other products. You know, it's a hub, it's integrated with all your development ecosystem, so you need to deploy it like any other system. You need to have SLA, you need to monitor it, and it's an important piece of your development SDLC.
And the last one, communicate, like Teddy said. I like how he says that it's like a social network. I mean, you may have the best portal in town, but if there's no content in it, it's not worth much. So you need to communicate. This is not something that you deploy here and say, all right, checkbox, it's deployed, it's going to be useful. No, you need to invest in it, to have your team work on it, to go talk to the right people, to make them put their content in your portal. It's pretty important. And last but not least, don't hesitate to interact with the open source community. Backstage is an awesome project. We reached out to them a few times. Actually, I think we even committed a few plugins ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So don't hesitate with this point. I don't know if you want to add on that.
No, you say.
Okay. So thank you, everybody. That's what we had today. I think we have a couple minutes left for Q&A. If you have, don't hesitate to come to this mic in the center of the room, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gents, fantastic presentation. I've been waiting for this one all week, so thank you. You mentioned at the beginning and also at the end, you tied back into the ROI for leadership. And one of the examples you showed at the beginning was find those things that you add up a lot over time. The frequencies, even if they're small amounts of minutes per frequency, they add up on a multiplier. What were some of the examples? Two parts, sorry. What were some of the examples that you guys focused on early there? And then also, can you talk some about the leadership advocacy? Was there directives after leadership buy-in where leadership was communicating out to all their teams like, hey, everybody's going to be participating this way? Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Great question. And it's actually, we spend a lot of time on this at the start of the presentation because when you work in a large organization, you need to sell your vision, like I said. So we did, the example that we gave, we did use the amount of time that the developers would gain every day. And we use things like deployment could be like, instead of an hour, it could take like half an hour, or instead of spending like half an hour looking in Confluence and stuff like that, they could just go in the portal and find it right away. So we did use lots of those small things to help understand how it would end up.
Yeah, and there are also some with the scaffolder. There are also sometimes saved because you don't have to go back to the product team. Sometimes they can initialize a new project and they think this is the good thing to do, but then you come back and they don't know there is some standardized GitHub workflow they can use, and they already spend like 2 days creating their workflow, which is perhaps better, but probably not than the standardized one.
And just quickly before another, so for this leadership part, I was actually part of this leadership, so it kind of helped. I'm coming from the development team and all, and you need to, like I said, explain them in terms that they can understand, translate those value to what the language that they know. Yeah. Yep.
Perfect. Thank you for the session, gentlemen. I have a question basically from the other end. So if I understood correctly, the POC basically allowed to put the documentation for like 90% of projects in a single place. But what was like a tipping point for the developers so they would find this useful? Was it like already this POC, or maybe was there some like other step before it that they found it useful?
Yeah, we did the POC in order to show something to the developers and to show quickly what they can do with the portal. And then we quickly iterate to add some more integrations. So you know, see, if I take the example of SonarCube, people know they are integrated with SonarCube. They know the gating is not passing sometimes in their CI, but other than that, they never go to the SonarCube UI because it's not in their tabs open. So with this integration, it's like only an annotation they need to add in the component, and then each time they go see their component, they can see the quality metrics. And more than that, if some people need to use your component or your system, they will see that too. So it's more visible. So that's that kind of stuff we did.
So, like, do I understand correctly? It's like gradual process, meaning that there won't be like single point of time when most of the teams will find this useful, but it's like some stepping towards it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So maybe a quick last one. I think we're kind of out of time, but we're going to hang out in the halls after. Don't hesitate to come talk to us.
Sure. I just have a question about your auto discovery or your automations around creating these catalog info files. We have about 75% of our developers that love Backstage, but we have about 25% that give us some pushback about creating these catalog info files, maintaining these files. Could you please tell us about your automations around that?
Yeah, we have a trick for that, in fact, because we had to, since Mathieu said that we had lots of tools, and our Git solution was Bitbucket, and we migrate from Bitbucket to GitHub. And during this automatic migration, we onboard all the components. So it was easy for us to be sure that everybody do that. You know?
We made it quite a requirement to migrate.
Yeah.